You want to hear how the Tennessee Craft Fair went? I'll tell you everything, rain and all. Hey, this is Trisha in her 60s. Thanks so much for joining me. I am so glad that you are here. You may know that I spent the last weekend, or this past weekend, at a 3-day craft fair sponsored by the Tennessee Craft Association. This is a very, very large show with about 200 vendors in all types of mediums such as pottery, metalwork, woodworking, jewelry, painting, and things that you just can't describe. So I was very excited when I was chosen to be a participant in their Emerging Makers Tent, which is mostly for people who have not shown in this show before, or who are new at their craft and are just starting out with working on shows. This way you have several people in one tent with some mentors who can help you, just work your way through participating in an art fair. It's a really nice situation. I was very pleased to be in it. I was thrilled to be involved in it. That was until, of course, the weekend of. The best part was that we were able to set up on Thursday, the day before. Had all day, all afternoon to set up if we needed it. Luckily, because my setup was much more minimalist than I usually do, it took just a couple hours to do. It was not bad at all. Being able to leave your tent or leave your setup each night and just show up the next day and have everything ready was wonderful. That does make the days starting better, where you don't have to have already worked 4 hours putting a tent together or something, and then you have to meet with everyone. So setting up a day before was never a luxury I had, and I was thrilled. Friday, the first day, was pouring down rain. It did not stop, and actually it was threats of hail, lightning, and terrible winds. At one point, even though we are in a professionally set up tent, and at one point in the afternoon, everybody who was in the tent was holding on to the tent so it wouldn't blow away. That's how bad it was on Friday. So we were told that we're shutting down early, and I think they shut down around 2 o'clock, which was a shame, but obviously nobody was coming. It was just dangerous at that point. So I covered my booth with drop cloths to further protect it, just in case the wind made it, damp feeling or something, and went home early. Saturday started a little better. Unfortunately, it still rained all day. Even though it did start out a little better, it rained and rained and rained the entire time. The tent inside, because it's sitting on grass, was becoming squishy, and then once it became squishy, it became muddy. So it was not a pleasant experience for people walking into the tent. Obviously, people would run in because of the weather, but then once they were in the tent, they were like, ew, this is yucky, and they would leave. So that did not help us on Saturday, which you would assume would have been the biggest, best day. So next was Sunday. Let me just let you listen to a video that I shot Sunday morning.
It is going on 10 a.m. It's about 5 till 10 Sunday morning, the last morning of the Tennessee Craft Fair. And between you, me, and the car, first of all, thank you, universe, for such a wonderful parking space, relatively speaking. But between you, me, and the car, this is so stupid. Obviously, this is not my audience. I'm not sure even why I'm going to be here today. And I'm just I'm being objective. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just being objective. I watched people, we didn't have a lot of people, again, because it rained all day yesterday, so that was kind of terrible. And the tent is mushy and wet, and it's just miserable. But that'd be fine if I was selling $1,000 worth of paintings, you know? So far, I've made $30 minus the Tennessee Craft Fair's 20% take. So, 8 times 3, 24. I've made $24. And it cost me $75 to be in it, so I'm still negative 50. But that's okay. I've been negative more than that for shows before, so it's fine. But really, I think this is the last time I'm going to even try doing this. And again, I'm being objective. This is not feeling sorry for myself or pity party or anything. But I watch people, I'm watching the traffic patterns, and they walk in, they stop at the lady who has pottery, because she's right at the corner where you'd walk in. And then there's a row, and I'm right across from her where my little table begins part of that row. And then across from us is a girl with jewelry, very nice, delicate jewelry. And the traffic pattern is people stop at the pottery lady, they glance at my paintings, and then they go straight to the jewelry, and then they keep going. And so that's fine. That's fine. If it wasn't 2 days worth of watching that pattern, even though it was a small sample set, I would understand. But no, that's okay. This just wasn't the fair for me. And I keep saying I'm not going to do these anymore. But I guess I just keep having, thinking it's going to work. But that's okay. Well, here I go, out in the rain. As you can see, the car has gotten covered in rain as I've been recording. So that's just where it stands. I will add more to this during the day, probably. And wrapping up, of course. But
Sunday did better by not raining all day, so that was nice. Unfortunately, it was about 10 to 15 degrees colder than Friday and Saturday were. They were up in the upper 70s. Sunday ended up in the 50s. So it was in the 50s, drizzly, rainy, and the wind blowing. And once again, not optimal for an outdoor art fair. The tent was still squishy and muddy, and there were a lot of people who would come into the tent, would not even go to certain sections of the tent because it was just too muddy, and I don't blame them. Unfortunately, that I'm sure affected those artisans that were in those more muddy areas. I, on the other hand, had a lovely place. I was basically where you would walk into the tent, where most people would walk in. They would see me. And I thought that was going to be fantastic. When I was talking in the video previously about people not stopping by, just walking right by my booth and going to other booths, I wanted to make sure that I was not just making that up, in my head, that that's how it seemed. So what I ended up doing is I sat the camera down in my booth, looking out towards where people were in the row, just to see what, if I was imagining this or not. I taped for over an hour. This 90-second clip here is over an hour's worth on Sunday, which was our busiest day. And as you can see, people walk just straight by my booth, not even looking most of the time. I slowed it down in one place where you saw me talking to somebody, but that was it. That was my only interaction while I was taping that. I wanted to do it just to make sure that I wasn't making this up. Takeaways from this weekend. First, on a positive note, keep your eye on this guy, Jameson Gurdon. He was the star of our tent, and lots of people from the craft association were filing in to meet him. This kid's going to go somewhere. I met him, talked to him. He was so happy to be there. I wish him all the best in the world. Another takeaway is that I had more than one person tell me that they liked the clothing I was wearing. I was wearing blouses made from my paintings, which is what I usually do when I exhibit like this. I also had a scarf around my waist like a skirt, which I also do a lot of the times. And I had more than one person say that they would buy that scarf or that they really liked that. So that kind of emphasizes the point or just helps me realize that, yes, this work is valuable for clothing, for accessories, for things like that. I felt that for years, but I still keep hoping that somebody was going to want to buy those paintings. And my last takeaway is, after going through this 3-day weekend, not including Thursday, having to set up as well, and having to tear down in, guess what? The rain again. Yes, it started raining again right when we had to tear down. So I am never going to do this again. I don't think y'all have to pay me, I think, to do this again. At least in this, with this artwork, in the way I'm doing it, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. But that's okay. I've given it my best, and I am just going to go off in a different direction. I have been in different size fairs, inside, outside. This was, as I said before, my biggest and best opportunity that I've had since I started doing fairs in 2021. And I am tired of not selling anything. I have sold, let me think, in 2021 I sold one very small painting to somebody I knew. In the meantime, or since then, I have sold a couple scarves, which again, that would be the only thing that sold, so that shows me that that is really where my market is. But I've sold a couple scarves, I sold that one painting once, and my take for the weekend? I sold 6 greeting cards with a discount for a couple of them. That was a gross of $58, and I will have to pay 20% of that towards the craft fair, which leaves me a return of $46.40. And considering it cost me $75 to be in the show, so this time I only lost $24. I've lost a lot more in other shows that cost more to be in. We had 16 people in our tent, and our tent in the end ended up making over $12,000. That's fantastic. The top person made $2,700. The next two made $1,500. And then the next two made about $1,000 each. And it went down from there. I just am showing this to show that people did make money on this thing. I just was one that did not. So that's all. So there is money to be made at these fairs. Just not for me. And that's okay. It just took me a few years and a few of these fairs to finally get it through my skull that this is not my venue. So that is what I learned over the weekend, and it's okay. Looking forward to talking to you again soon, and I have some really cool things I'm working on that I can't wait to show you next. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.